If you can hear me, let me know. You should be live. Testing the microphone, making sure it's working fine. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up or a smile or just say hello. Hello, Mary. How are you this morning? Do I sound okay? Is it loud? Is it quiet? Is it? Just fine, I think. I think just fine too. Of course, that may change. I'm rounding up on 60. Hey, Jenny Brown. Oh my God, what a beautiful sunny day here in Ohio. Of course, it's supposed to be high of 50 tomorrow with 30s at night. So I took the top off my Jeep yesterday, and I'm going to put the top on my Jeep tonight. Looks like we got just over 3 minutes before we go live. I got a couple of short dad jokes for you guys this morning, and they are classic dad jokes. I wouldn't call them good by any stretch of the imagination. Windy, but not too cold in Minnesota. That's great. It's coming. We're coming into spring. I know I do have to cut my grass. I was noticing today the dandelions have shown up. Got to have dad jokes if you're a dad. I look up jokes in the morning, and this morning I was looking up a joke for a very specific line of speaking about afterwards. Good morning, Christina. How are you this morning? So I was looking for the something to take me into a conversation, and I found three, but one of them was the one that I wanted, and then the other two I just liked them, so I thought I'd go ahead and throw it in there. 2 more minutes. Seven people on with us. It is a sweet tea morning right now. And yes, I'm using my monk fruit sweetener, 0 carb, 0 calorie. Tastes less like sugar in iced tea, though. Really good. I'd never tried it before. When I was on the fast, I kept seeing people talk about monk fruit, and I said, well, I'll give it a shot. So I ordered it, and it came here the day I ended my fast, and I tried it the next day, and I was like, oh, I wish I'd have known about this years ago. Hello, Beverly Frank. How are you this morning? Hey, everybody, let us know where you are in the world. We got Minnesota and Ohio in the house so far. St. Louis. One of the coolest things I've ever seen was the elevator inside the arch in St. Louis. That little thing you ride. That's really just so cool the way it's designed. California, Joe Shaw, how are you? "30 seconds before we start this thing, and you get to hear my terrible dad jokes." Swell. Salt Lake City, Utah. Funny underwear state. I one time got in trouble with a Mormon because I made a joke and she was very offended. But it was when Mitt Romney and
Welcome to the Live Loving live stream.
with John Davis. Hey, there you are. There you are. So I'm going to have to tell you the story now that I almost started and didn't get a chance to finish. So it was during the debates between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney all those years ago. And I said, difference between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. I said, Barack Obama believes marriage between a man and a woman, and Mitt Romney believes it's marriage between a man and a woman and a woman and a woman and a woman. And she was very highly offended. But how are you guys this morning? I hope you're doing well here. I am very much enjoying the beautiful weather outside. As I said earlier, I took the top off my Jeep, and I've been driving around doors off and top off, and I know that I've just cursed the Northeast Ohio with the snow for the next 3 weeks because I did that. So, hello, Seattle. Tina's in the house. There you go. Yeah, riding up the arch is definitely something you never forget, Christine. Right. All right, so let me go ahead and do my three bad dad jokes, and then go into a little bit of a conversation about something, and we'll dive into questions soon thereafter. So start getting your questions ready. So we can get into a nice, good, long discussion this morning. First one: why did the chicken go to the seance? To get to the other side. Second one: they just opened a new restaurant nearby. It's named Karma. There's no menu. You just get what you deserve. And here's the last one: why do actors say break a leg? Because every show has a cast. There are my three bad dad jokes. I hope you guffawed at them as much as I did. That last one, though, is the one that I actually wanted to talk about. Why do actors say break a leg? It's funny because people have many different reasons as to why they think that is. But I am a theater director, and I am a person who loves theater and understands some of these things. Like, for instance, why do they call it a green room? Because in Shakespeare's time, there was no room for the actors to wait in, and they would wait outside. And so that was called the green room. So why do actors say break a leg? When you look at a stage, you have the main curtain, and then they have these short little curtains that go upstage on each side of the stage. You know, here. And these are where actors make entrances from. Well, those little narrow curtains on the sides of the stage are called legs. And when you, quote unquote, break a leg, it means you take the stage with vigor. You take your full character, full bore. You don't hold anything back. You go onto the stage and you break that leg. You step on past that leg and you are just in character and in action. And that's what break a leg means, is that you tell someone to break a leg. It means go out there and give it your all, give it your best. And the reason I wanted to give that useless piece of knowledge to you this morning is because I think a lot of people forget to break a leg. A lot of people forget to go into life and live it with full vigor. They live it in fear rather than love. They live it in worrying what other people will think of them. They get so worried about how they look or how they're going to sound, or they feel like they're dumb, or they feel like they're stupid, they feel like they're unattractive. They go through life not breaking the leg. And the thing is, the best performances are always the person who broke the leg, someone who stepped out of there and really brought their full authentic self and their full authentic character to the part. And living a loving life really means breaking a leg every day. It means stepping out and living your full authentic self and loving and caring and helping and not hating and not throwing anger and derisiveness or even self-loathing or self-doubt or self-worth is not breaking the leg. That's holding the leg back. And I think that it's really a fascinating idea in that we need to break our leg every day. We need to step out into the world and just express who we are and the world we want to create. If you want to create a loving, caring world, hey Sheila, how are you? Sheila. Actually, if you guys ever checked out the Spirit Cafe podcast interview with Sheila, it's actually our number one podcast episode ever. So thank you and hello, Celtic Tarot Sheila. So breaking a leg. So Sheila's a great example of breaking the leg. She puts herself out there. She does all this amazing different styles of reading, but she doesn't limit herself. She goes out there full bore and puts herself out there. And Jenny Brown constantly tells me stories about how she goes out and not constantly, but occasionally I hear stories from Jenny about how she did something loving and it came right back. And that's Jenny giving her all. That's Jenny breaking her leg. I think it's really important that we all go through life full bore. Don't hide. And full bore can sometimes mean today I need a rest, and that's okay too. But when you go out into the world, you want to really express who you are fully, because unconditional love is being loved for who you are. And if you're not showing who you are, then you're not able to get unconditional love. You're not able to get that expression of love coming towards you. And you need to put out the things that you love as well. So people often get into the mindset of limitation, and they say, well, I can't do this because there's not enough to go around. Not everybody likes the same things. Not everybody loves the same things. So the idea of going out there and breaking the leg in life is to step outside past that leg and really express yourself fully to the world, and don't hold back. Don't hold back because of fears and anxieties. So that to me is hugely important, that we all go out and break a leg. So guys, here we are. It is a lovely morning. So when you guys have a topic you want to talk about, just throw it in the chat board over here to the left, and I will dive into it, and we'll get some things going back. So anybody has any very specific questions. Now, I did a video just recently on the my daily practices, my daily spiritual practices, and it was very interesting because I get someone who disliked my daily practices, and I was like, oh, that's okay, you can dislike it. But I thought it was fascinating that someone would take the time to dislike what somebody else's daily spiritual practices were. And to me, that was it's an interesting. I'm not. Don't worry. I don't take it to heart. I never take it to heart. But to me, it was interesting to say that is their spiritual practice looking for people to dislike and to connect and to be set in that negative space? Because why do my spiritual practices elicit a response of dislike? That to me was a fascinating idea. Do they believe that I should do it their way and they should be right? And that is one of the things that I think a lot of spiritual people have, is they have their certain beliefs, they have their certain concepts of what spirituality is, and they think they have to be right. And when they think they have to be right, that means they have to judge others. It means they have to start knocking others down who don't believe the same as they do. And I think that we can openly accept each other's beliefs and opinions, and I truly believe that spirituality is a personal journey, because Mom told me. And so I truly believe that we have to step into a place where we're literally saying that it's okay to have differences. It's okay to have different thoughts. The world has become so divisive right now. In my experience, they want you to stop because they think that you are getting ahead of them. It's nothing to do with their spiritual practices, which are perfect for you. Exactly. I agree with you, Sheila, entirely. Your spiritual practices and my spiritual practice might be entirely different. But for me, personally, when I for instance, I got into a conversation with someone the other day about the idea of soul contracts. And I've done a lot of research on where things show up. And soul practices didn't really come into the spiritual conversation until the 90s, really. And then they actually had their heyday in the early 2000s, with their biggest year of discussion being 2013. So the soul contracts is a very, very recent concept. And I said, just doesn't ring true to me. It just doesn't feel right to me because I believe we have free will. And I don't believe we set a contract with somebody before we come here and then get here and forget all about it. And so it doesn't ring true to me. And the interesting concept that came back from one of the commenters was, well, it could be a new spiritual truth that is coming, into our consciousness. And I respect that belief. I totally respect that belief. And I think it's a great belief. I always go back to my own personal experience. In my regression, when I was experiencing meeting Jeshua, I was told that it's so simple that we make it difficult. We can't comprehend it. So my answer to him was, well, why would we be getting new constructs around something that's very simple? In fact, I believe we need to strip away all the constructs and get down to the feeling. And as I've said many times, I believe the connection to source is a feeling, not a thinking. And you need to get out of the head and into the heart, just like the story of Adam and Eve. The story of Adam and Eve, they ate from the tree of knowledge. That was their transgression. They got into their head and out of their heart. And you need to get back into the heart or back into the feeling of it, in my belief. But like I said, if that's not your belief, no one's telling you what you have to believe. Not here anyway. No one's telling what you have to believe, because spirituality is a personal journey. And that being the case, we all have to find our own personal truth and live to our own personal truths. All I do on my channels and on these live streams when you ask me questions is I tell you my personal beliefs. I don't judge you for yours. So for me personally, it's about getting more simple, not more convoluted. And Mary, I would have the same answer about the soul plan idea. I think that we are one with God, and our consciousness comes into this space of polarity, this place of fear and anxiety, and we're here to experience that fear and anxiety in many forms and find our way back to love in a beautiful way. But it's mainly to experience the love from all angles. And so I think the soul plan, for me, and I respect your beliefs, completely respect your beliefs. For me, even the soul plan is an overthought construct. But for you, it may be exactly what you believe, and it feels true to you. That's great. Love it. Yeah. And like I said, completely respect your beliefs either way. Doesn't really matter. Do you think we chose our family we were born into? No. This is the same thing. This is the same idea of a soul plan. I think that we could potentially say, I'd like to try this, I'd like to try that, because for me personally, when we cross over to the other side, we go back into the oneness of all. And when I do my channeling sessions, to me, people ask me all the time, what's the entity that you're channeling? Well, I don't believe it's an entity. I believe it's going into my higher self and experiencing the oneness, or as the Hindus would call it, the Akasha, or the Akashic record. And so for me, it's going into that space of oneness. Like, that's what Jeshua taught, the Father and I are one. And when you get into the Father and I are one, then you have to realize if you go into the oneness of God, you're going to know everything, because you're going to know what everybody's thoughts are. And so for me personally, when we're in that oneness, we can look at potential and go, this might be interesting. But I truly believe that when we are here in our fears and in our feeling of separation, that illusion of separation, I believe we have complete free will. And so, because whatever you ask in God's name is granted, nothing will be impossible for you. So, that I believe. I also look at the writings of Buddha, who said, what you think you become, you create your world. Krishna said, you're the culmination of your thought. As a man thinketh, so is he. Well, to think something here is what we're creating here. That's the very essence of karma, or sow and reap, as the Bible would say. So to come here and say, I have a plan, or I have, and quite honestly, choosing your family before you come, nothing wrong with that idea. because I believe that life is eternal. So we experience the other side. And why do I say that? I say that because of the idea that, not because of the idea, because of when I had my regression, and I'm pointing at my painting. If you guys ever see me pointing, it's my painting stares at me during this thing. When I had my regression, the one thing that I distinctly remember when he touched my heart was going to the other side and experiencing that oneness and the love of God and that whole experience. And when I look at that experience, I look at it from the idea of this is, I am here, my body is there, this is life eternal. So I understand that I still exist on the other side, and I understand that you still exist on the other side. And I know that when we were on the other side, we had awareness. I had awareness. So the question I would have to say is when we're in the oneness of God, in the full Akashic records, do we know everything, or do we know potentials? For me personally, to have free will means I can't know what's being set up first, right? And even in near-death experiences, the interesting thing about near-death experiences to me is the people who have very profound adult beliefs will have an experience whereby they have their beliefs shown to them before they learn about more, right? But when you watch the ones with children, the stories with children, they often will say, I went there and God said, you're going to have a different mother now, and just sent you to a different mother. So did the child choose the two mothers? To me, it just gets more and more convoluted, and I think it needs to be the idea of less structure and more feeling. In my idea. Did Jeshua ever speak about what he did from 13 to 30? Jeshua told me that he traveled through India. And what was fascinating to me is I didn't know that when I went to India. And I found out about the prophet Isa. And if you ever look up the prophet Isa, or they call him Sri Isa, when they know exactly where he traveled all through India. They know exactly who he was with and what he was. And you ask them, whatever happened to him, they say he went back to his country and was crucified. He did talk about traveling and studying and being with the gurus. Mary, I think that's a fascinating idea. I chose a few things before I came, and I'm still choosing. Maybe it's a conscious evolution of choice, and that might be absolutely true. I could see that. And Joe, that's exactly what I just said to Mary, same thing. But that said, the most wonderful times of my life have been when I've been spontaneous and when I have just said yes, right? When it's come up and just said go. So I I don't negate the idea, because I know that when we cross over, I was there, and you will be there as well, and you have been there, and are probably there now. This is just an illusion, as I said. So the idea of still having free will. The question I really have is are we still on the other side planning, or are we in this physical plane dealing with some elements? I don't claim to know everything. I just follow my own discernment, and yeah, and I agree with you entirely, Mary. Don't we choose to be here to experience fear? Do you think Jeshua came to earth to experience fear versus love? That is what Jeshua taught. He said we come here to experience our separation from God. And so, do we choose? Personally, it's like, do you choose to breathe? That's the best way I can describe this. Do you choose to breathe? Or do you choose? I mean, the idea of choosing to breathe, I think it's a very natural thing that we're going through. And think about this. you come here, you're experiencing life, but every 16 hours or so, you have to fall asleep. You have to go into a different state of consciousness. And it's a natural state for you to fall back into that natural state of consciousness, that other state of consciousness. And so it's almost like in being here, you're almost like deep sea diving. You're down here, you're experiencing the slower motion of the water and the less perception. And then you go back to the other side, you experience it all. But the idea of, do we choose to be here to experience fear? Or don't we choose to be here? I just think it's a natural function. It's almost primal in its existence, because we can't know or experience love without fear. Now, like I said, we are aware on the other side because I've been there. So being there and being aware on the other side doesn't mean you can't say, oh, well, I'd like to try that. I'd like to do this. But I think it's more of I personally think it's more of a natural thing and more of a feeling than a thinking, if that makes any sense at all. I know some people are going to think that sounds contrary to what I'm trying to say. To me, it literally comes down to the idea of it being a very natural and very simple state, love and fear. And I don't get into the idea of a construct that I have no experience with. So I don't have an experience of me saying, I choose that, I choose this, I choose this. Because it's just like reincarnation. People ask me about reincarnation all the time. My response is always the same. I don't know what reincarnation is. I just know I have these memories. Now, am I the only one? I don't know. Are there 1,000 of us? I don't know. Do all of you have access to these same memories I do? I don't know. I don't know what reincarnation is. I know what Hindus think about it, and Buddhists think about it, and Christians think about it. I know what the people think about it, but I haven't necessarily found one that rings true to me. Because doesn't ring true to me, I just say I don't know. As far as choosing life before we come, I think I think the thing that I rebel against and hold back on that doesn't feel right to me is the concept of the solidity of that idea. I choose my life. I have a soul contract. Now, all of these topics that we're talking about, even love and fear, really, in some forms, you can find the what I would call the universal truth. And when I say universal truth, I don't mean like galactic cosmos. I mean like can be found in multiple sources, the same idea. And so the one that I always refer to when I explain that idea is the one about thought. What you think you become, you create your world. You're the culmination of your thought. As a man thinketh, so is he. So that to me would be what I would call a universal belief or universal truth, because it's shown everywhere. All of these topics of choosing our families before we come, choosing our path before we come, all of these are not found anywhere but in the New Age movement and Theosophy. And there's no correlation to any of it anywhere. And so, though I am very much a feeling person, I do read and study to find out what I feel about things. And when I don't see correlations that it's found everywhere, I tend to think it's dubious because of the fact that it's not something that all different faiths have found. And to me, that to me is important, because if all different faiths have found the same thing, then that means there's got to be some truth to it, because everyone's finding the quote-unquote empirical evidence of it. And so that is the way I kind of process my thoughts on these matters. Do I think that I could be wrong? Absolutely. I absolutely. Do you think I could be right? Absolutely. I just go with what feels right for me, and you should do the same. If what I say doesn't feel right, follow the logic of Buddha when he said, "Believe no one, even me, unless it rings true to your own spirit." So that to me is important. So what other questions do we have out there? I'm going to take a drink of sweet tea while I have a chance. I guess one of the questions I would have to say, there you go, Mary. Yep, we're here behind this human veil, so do what resonates. Nothing about yoga in the Bible. You could say it's part of the New Age movement, yet it's a good thing, true, at least for the body. Absolutely, it's a good thing for the body, and what's interesting is modern yoga is nothing like original yoga. Original yoga was a Hindu practice for a spiritual attainment. Now you have hot yoga and jello yoga, and I don't know if there's a jello yoga. I think that the yoga is one of those. It's like for me, I don't say meditation. I say sit in love. Why is that? Because right now there's guided meditations, there's mantra meditations, there's breathing meditations, there's fire meditations. So the idea of what meditation means nowadays has kind of gone far away from its original. Yoga was originally meant to be a meditation for the body. It was for the body to have its own physical part of the spiritual experience, and it's interesting. And movement of the body in any form is good, because movement is the basis of a physical life. I often say that water going downhill is healthy because it's filled with life-giving oxygen. That's why we put aerators in ponds, to give life-giving oxygen and motion. And you take that same water and you put it in a puddle at the bottom of the mountain, and it draws stagnant and becomes poisonous, and bugs lay their eggs in it, and it becomes a nasty thing because it's not in motion. Life is about being in motion on all fronts. Body, mind, spirit, all the fronts. Jiggly tummy. Who's looking at my jiggly tummy when I do yoga? That's jello yoga. Anyway, to me, like I say, this is not my channel, and this live stream is not about me dictating any of my beliefs to you. It's just about sharing. It literally is about sharing. I don't judge you for any of your beliefs, and I don't hold anything against you. But yoga, first of all, yoga is part of the New Age movement. It has become part of the New Age movement, but in reality, it's from Hindu belief. It goes way, way back. But it doesn't mention yoga in the Bible. It doesn't mention yoga elsewhere. So, but it is a Hindu belief. But I think, like I said, all movement's good for the body. So I think we should start jello yoga. I bet we could make millions of dollars on jello yoga. That would be. My mind goes to some crazy places when I think about that, and multiple ways of enjoying that process. It could work. It could totally work. Totally work. I'm surprised some of the Pornhub sites haven't done that yet. Not that I know. Not that I know. I'd be surprised if they hadn't. Let me put it that way. Brownie yoga is something I could get behind. Brownie yoga. Sounds yummy. Yeah. And you know what I think is really funny is we're sitting here talking about jello yoga right now. But to me, we're laughing. And that laughter is the feeling of love. It's the feeling of God. It's the feeling of joy. I mean, that in itself is a spiritual experience. So he's absolutely right. Yoga is a spiritual experience. Like dangling a carrot in front of a mule. Yep. I completely agree with you on that. I should tell you a story about being in Egypt. I had a great trip in Egypt with some very interesting people and made some lifelong friends while I was there. And there was this one person who was having a hard time walking around, and these Egyptians said, "Would you like us to get her a mule to carry her?" And we're like, "Sure, sure." So they brought a mule, and this mule did not like her on his back, and he started freaking out. And I was standing there, and I saw it happening, and that donkey went to take off. She started falling backwards, and I caught her, and I didn't let her fall because she would have landed directly on her head the way she was falling. And I caught her and brought her down to the ground and made sure she didn't get hurt. But yeah, it was still to this day. She and I joke about that mule. So anyway, so of all the videos that have been coming out lately, any of the ones that I put out this week been interesting to any of you? Any thoughts on them? If you remember any of them. Sugar's mama is in the house. Hello, Sugar's mama. So I'm going to look up something here real quick here. Hold on. The discernment video was good. Yeah, it's interesting because, as I was saying earlier, it was one of the ones that I got a negative on, but I thought it was interesting that I got a negative on it because it was like they're judging the idea. Of course, you're biased by that one, Jenny. Jenny, I was literally sitting on the couch when your comment came in, and I was like, I'm going to run in the other room and make that video as fast as I can. Let's see. I'm trying to open up my content here to see what came out just recently. Discernment was an interesting one because, to me, it's about finding your own truth and your own pathway. How I use discernment. What do you what do you guys think about the idea of what I said about life review after death? Because to me, crossing over is a transition, and I think coming into the oneness, you get the experience of all knowledge is what we talked about earlier. You know, when you're crossing over, you go into the experience of the oneness, and so to me, I think it's an interesting concept. It also explains to me the idea of a transition into the other side being. It makes sense to me that it would be a transition like that because people who are Christians see a Christian heaven, and people who are Hindu see a Hindu heaven, and people who are atheists usually see a Christian heaven because most of them became atheists because they came from Christian upbringing. When you become oneness, you would experience the knowledge of the ripple effect of your life. Yeah, and Mary, I love the way you said that. I can see that we watch as we add our life experience to all that is. I could also see as you go into the oneness, to the oneness of God, you would experience how you affected other people as well, which is what I always say about those life reviews. You not only experience it from your point of view, but from everybody else's point of view as well. So to me, that makes sense that it would be a transition into being one with everything, you know. And you know what the Zen Buddha said to the hot dog vendor, make me one with everything. So the idea of going into that oneness is fascinating. And then, of course, what else did we talk about this week? Oh, Jenny's Good Friday video. There it is right there. I love how you well, not you, but how people tend to label things, and they call it Good Friday because of what Jesus did for Christians, right? And that's why I said in the video, I said, you go listen to my regression and you hear what that Friday was really about, because you hear me screaming and crying and wailing as I'm experiencing him being crucified. And it's I can't listen to it now without tearing up. And there are certain moments from my regression that I just think about and I tear up. And so when I look at that being a Good Friday, it was really not a Good Friday for me. Randy, I agree with you. The ability to tell what is actually true discernment is very much needed. The question is, actually true for who? Because there are some people who believe very differently from me, and I'm sure people who think very differently from you, and their truth is very different. For me, I don't disregard anybody's beliefs unless they're harming others, if they're not loving, because I believe love is the one universal truth of it all, is that we have to be loving and to receive loving. Yeah, Marcy, I did too. I cried when I heard my regression as well. In fact, when I got home, I remembered it all, and then a couple people who were not in the room wanted to hear it, so we sat there and we listened to it again, like an hour after I did it that night, and I had the full emotional response to it again. Yeah, Sugar's Mama, I'm glad you brought this up. Negative people only see the negative. I look at the world today, just to give you my take on this, is Socrates once said, when the debate is lost, slander becomes the tool of the loser. They start calling names. They start yelling at people. And I think that's what's happening all over the world. I think Putin is yelling and screaming and hollering because he's losing grip on power. I think that in our political system here in the United States, I don't like to talk politics on my channel, but one side is saying I'm going to help humanity and help our people and do good things in the world. Other side is literally saying we have nothing we're offering. They literally said that. We don't have any platform that we're doing this time. Our only platform is stop the other side. And so to me that's a negative platform. So I didn't say which side was which, but it's pretty blatantly obviously which side is which, because they have spoken it out loud, both sides. And I believe when the negative people start getting loud and start screaming, it's because it's the end of their time. I think we are coming into a more loving world. And the private sessions that I've been doing, I see beautiful, loving people, and I see a dramatic shift. Somebody reminded me recently on one of the comments that 12 years ago, I had another YouTube channel, and if you want to find something interesting, look up on YouTube. Look up Peniel Foundation, all one word, Peniel Foundation, Peniel Foundation, and I think it's got 8 or 9 videos on there. It's me without any gray hair, but I was still bald. And I'm planning on hopefully taking that channel. I didn't know that channel was still up. I was trying to figure out if I can figure out how to take it down. But go look at it when you have a chance, because it's not going to be there much longer as far as I'm concerned. But because it's a different time, it's a different place, and you'll see a speech I did at a Unity church that's chopped up in there, so you can get some of the story in there. But one of the things I thought was really interesting is the guy in his comment to me said, "It sounds like you're saying the same things." Well, yeah, my truth hasn't altered. My truth hasn't changed. I'm still coming from that space of what I've learned, and I've been saying the same things for 20 years. But now the difference is now I hear people actually hearing it and living it. You know, that's why it's called Live Loving. It's not called the John of New channel for except for the fact that you know who I am. But this live stream is about Live Loving, right? My YouTube channel is called John of New because I can get you there and we could talk about the topics. But the reality of it is everything I teach is about Live Loving, and Live Loving is the important part of this whole thing. And you know, putting the things into practice, and I see it every day. And I'm gonna call her out again. You know. Jenny Brown, you know, she tells it, you know, she's putting these things into practice and she's getting responses. Jenny, why don't you tell us a little bit, or say something in the chat about your experience with working these principles and seeing how they work, and because I think that people need to hear that the simplicity of love actually works. Are you aware of the work of Dr. David R. Hawkins? I have not read about him, but have you read about noetic science and the work of Edgar Mitchell? Because he's doing the same thing, and I'm really curious. You know, I think like Edgar Casey back in the day, I thought he was an amazing channel, but I believe he filtered all his stuff through his devout Christianity, so it wasn't 100% clear. But one of the things he did say was that there was going to be a new science developed to bridge the gap between science and spirituality. And I believe that that is exactly what noetic science is doing right now. I love this question, CPO Snarky. This may sound crazy, but do you think animals can become enlightened? Have you ever come across a critter that gave off a really different feeling in their action? Who's to say they're not already? Who to say that they're not already living in unison with nature and living the physical reality in pure instinct, and I find that most empathic people are drawn to animals because animals love unconditionally, and was it, every time I think the world is evolving, Joe, that's really funny. Every time I think the world is evolving, I go to Walmart and I'm back questioning about everything about evolution. Yeah, and that is exactly it. It's a choice that I choose to make every day. Every day you're choosing to break the leg. You're coming out of there going, ha, into the world. I'm going out and I'm doing it. And what's interesting is the longer you do it, the less you have to choose it, because it becomes natural. It becomes part of your state. I will definitely check him out, Randy. That I promise. I'm getting quite a reading list. A lot of people are throwing a lot of stuff my way right now. So if you could do me a favor, if you could email that to me to john@johnofnew.com, that would be much easier than me trying to grab it off this chat board right now. So that'd be lovely. Hey now, I can wear my jammies at Walmart. Hey now, I'm not wearing pants on Zoom or on a YouTube live stream. It does become part of your state, absolutely. And I think it's beautiful when you live life with a smile on your face. You get smiles into your life. And to me, that's the best part of this whole thing is that you can express love and give love and break a leg in life and have life show you an amazing performance back. You know, pants are optional, except for in Walmart. At least most Walmarts, anyway. I'm looking at my computer over here for a second. So the video that's coming out tomorrow is called "What Does Reincarnation Have to Do with Spirituality?" And it's It's an interesting question, and I think it's going to be an interesting video tomorrow. I actually don't remember what I said on it, but I will tell you this. I know that for me, it doesn't matter who you were. It only matters who you are. It only matters what you're bringing to the world right here, right now. It's the only moment you have thought, word, and deed. It's the only moment that you're conscious. And when you live your life that way, and don't worry so much about who you were and what you're supposed to learn from that lifetime. You're not supposed to learn in that lifetime. You're supposed to learn in this one. And I really, I often wonder why I ended up getting these memories. Well, I often wonder that. What was the purpose of me getting these memories? What was the purpose of all this? I don't know. I truly don't know. But when I think about it, I go to the idea of these memories are showing me a way to be. They're showing me a process that we all can live into, to live lovingly. As Yeshua said, I leave you this one commandment: love one another. And to me, when I do that, and I get out of my head about all the goods and evils, and somebody earlier mentioned hell, and when you do the studies and you start to realize that the word Gehenna, which was translated into hell, was a trash dump on the outskirts of Jerusalem where they used to burn the bad things. And I don't mean people, I meant like the trash. It was a trash dump. And, if you were bad, if it was bad, it went and got burned to Gehenna. So, I could totally see a mother saying, don't do that. You keep doing that, I'm going to burn you in Gehenna. You're going to burn in Gehenna. And so to me, it's interesting. That when you start looking at the origins of all this stuff. But the key is living it now, living it in the word when you have thought, word, and deed. That's awesome, Sugar's Mama. I think it's so good. You're recognizing the fear. But I think it's an interesting idea about experienced life other than just other. I think it's the only place you can truly experience life, though, is here, because it's the only place you're conscious. So even if you have past life memories, do you, Mary, believe they affect who you are here or are important for you to finish a mission here? And I would like to know that your answer to this is well, because is it important? Do I have my memories because it's important to me to finish a former mission, or do I have these memories so that I can bring my personal truth forward here? It really comes down to back and forth. I like that's really great, Joe. I like that. The word spirituality is often, I don't use the word spirituality as often as I used to. It creates the illusion that there is anything at all that is not spiritual. Yes, I completely agree with that statement. Your world, your life, everything that you're looking at is made of pure energy, and it's all quote unquote spirit. The word spirit and spiritual has become much like meditation. There's so many different forms, so many different avenues, so many different constructs. That's why I like to get back into the idea of the simplicity of it, the feeling of it. And words are imperfect, and words change over time. I mean, in the 50s, if you were gay, it just meant you were happy, and the word has changed now, right? And for the better, I think. It's but definitions change. Things that I used to say as slang, my son thinks of entirely differently, and so words are imperfect. And so I would say get back to the feeling of it and out of the man-made structures of it. Where are we? See you, Marcy. Have a good day. Mindfulness and present moment living has made me so much happier. Absolutely. They might if we choose. If we choose. If we choose that past life as being an important element in our experience. Are we still live? I think we are. Yep, we are. Okay. My computer just did something weird and made me look like we might not be on anymore. I don't know why I look so blurry over there. Huh. I look really clear on my camera. I don't know why I look so blurry on YouTube. But do I look blurry to you guys, or is it just my iPad being weird? You look fine. You just say that. So anyway, not blurry. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. My iPad's looking weird. Clear and crisp. Crisp and clear and no caffeine, which is a lie. I'm drinking iced tea and I had coffee earlier. So what other questions do you guys have we want to talk about this morning? We got like 5 or 10 minutes left before we're going to end this puppy. So I always say we're going to end this. Any more questions? And then we're like, no, okay, so we're ending it. And everybody starts saying goodbye. And then like 10 questions come in right at the end. So let's get your 10 questions in now, so we can talk about them. I love this format we have of the live stream. Is there something else you would like to see happen on these live streams? I do try to get guests, and sometimes it's hard. Sheila, if you're still here, I don't know if you are. If you're still here, love to have you come on and do something on here. That would be wonderful. So I'm throwing that out to you. Other than that, I guess I don't see anybody jumping up with any more questions today. But tell me what you think about what you'd like to see more on this live stream, and should we have? What do you think of pendulums, and have you ever tried to use one? I have a pendulum in my house right now. It hangs on a lamp in the other room. It's hung there for many, many years. It was a gift. All right, Jenny, we can add meditations back in. That's good. We can do that. Pendulums. When we look at pendulums, we look at the physical world. The physical world is a product of our thought, of our belief. The question is do you believe the answer is coming from some external force, or do you believe it's coming from your personal belief? I believe the pendulums swing in your personal belief. But sometimes you might not. You might be so in your fear, you might not know your personal beliefs. It may not be evident. But I believe the whatever you're believing about what's being said is what you're going to experience. So that's kind of what I would think about pendulums. I know you have talked many times about the death of Jesus. You can't wrap your head around about why I talk about it or why he died. Yeah, I think it all comes down to Mary. I believe it comes all down to our inner belief. And Joe, that totally well could be. It totally well could be. I had a hard time believing it. It didn't feel right to me, so I don't do it. But it looks beautiful hanging from my lamp. In fact, most people think it's a cord to turn the lamp on, but it's not. Why such a horrible death? Well, let me see if I can explain this. And yes, I have done videos on it. So Joshua was becoming a rock star. He was becoming very well known. And what he taught was self-empowerment. What he taught was stepping into your own divinity, realizing that there is no authority other than yourself and your belief and your thoughts. And that is very dangerous for people who are holding on to power, people who are trying to subvert the will of the people and be basically dictators. And so Jeshua knew full well that the teachings were true and to him, and he wanted the teachings to live on, but he also knew that he had overshadowed the teachings, so the teachings needed to be spread out. So what he did was he took 12 people, he gave them the teachings. He said, these are your areas. So you have to think about the disciples less along the lines of mystical apostles or anything like that, and think of them along the lines of bishops. They had dioceses. They had places to go and teach. John's was Turkey and that region. So he would go to Ephesus and all those places because that's where he was told that his space was. He divided this area out. But the only way Jeshua knew that those teachings could live on and not be crushed was if he himself left this experience. If he was gone. So why so horrific? Why so terrible? Because they wanted to make an example of what you say, what you do to someone who says they're not in power, who says they are not powerful. He also wanted to make an example to the people who wanted him to rise up and create an army and go against them. The Essenes wanted him to be a king. They wanted him to become the leader of a people and raise an army to fight Rome. And the interesting thing about that was he said no, and we avoided Qumran and the Essenes. And then after his crucifixion, the first attack on Rome was the Essenes. So, and it was John the Essene who created an army to go fight Rome. So he was showing them, this is not the way, this is not the way. And then he was saying, I'm going to my death so that I am gone and the teachings can go on. He gave himself for the teachings, but he was killed horrifically as an example of anybody who tries to threaten the power of those that be, those that control. And that's why it was such a horrific death, as an example. That's why they wanted him up on a cross and shown to the world, because they wanted, in the 1700s, they would hang pirates and put the word pirate over their chest, over the body, so that people would go, oh. Now, what did it say over Jesus' cross? According to the Bible, it says King of the Jews. What does a king do? A king raises an army. It's exactly what I said, right? He was not going to become the guy who fought Rome openly with swords. He was not going to become that guy. He was a guy who was empowering the individual in a way that Rome couldn't comprehend. All Rome could hear was, oh, they don't need us to rule over them anymore. He's basically saying you don't have to worry about what Rome is doing because you have eternal life. And that's why that happened. And so many humans have died a horrible death over time. And I'll tell you an interesting thing is that channel I talked about earlier, the Peniel Foundation channel. That's back from the days when I was known as John of Peniel. And people ask me what that meant. Peniel is the battle where God was it a battle? I forget which prophet it was. He was at the well of Peniel, where he discovered the face of God, and that we were part of the face of God. In other words, we are in God's image. We are all part of this face of God. The word Peniel has come to mean face of God, and there was a fight between somebody and somebody at that well as well. But it comes down to the idea of Peniel meaning face of God, and I believe we are all from the face of God. We are all part of this whole illusion is the face of God, and we are of that face of God. And so I used to call myself John of Peniel. But back in those days when I was doing that speaking and talking and traveling around, they could not get over the past life story and listen to what I was saying. And I totally understand why Jeshua would give himself up. That's why I quit, because they weren't hearing the information. They were only hearing the past life story. But that has dramatically changed now, dramatically changed. People are really living into their own personal divinity and personal development. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see, and he would be overjoyed to see what's happening right now. And Beverly, let me say this. If you believe it wounds the soul, then it will wound the soul. Because there is nothing good nor bad, but thinking makes it so, according to Mr. Shakespeare himself. But our beliefs are our thoughts. And what we think we become, we create our world. So if you believe it, that's the experience that you'll experience. And the interesting thing is, Sugar's mama, we are at a point where the ones who aren't in alignment are rebelling, and the rest of us aren't. Now, the rest of us are coming up, and I think there's more of us than there are of them by far. Right, Joe, I completely agree with you. It's such an anomaly, or it's not even the word I'm looking at. It's hypocrisy to think of God as love, and yet God's going to destroy. And the one Old Testament story that I always refer to, it just says it all to me. The book of John says God is love. In the Old Testament, it says God sent 2 bears to kill 42 children because they made fun of a bald man. I'm like, yeah, sounds real loving to me. So, yeah, why would you fear God if God is love? And, if I was going to use another Bible quote, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. And if you change it around, you go, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, because love is with me. At Sugar's Mama, in the words of Jack Nicholson, they can't handle the truth. Anyway, guys, we're coming to an end here. It's been a lovely morning. Thank you for chatting with me. Jenny, I will add a meditation into next week just for you, and for everybody else too. But so there'll be a meditation as well. Should I try to see if I can get some guests on here? And let me know about that. Sugar's Mama, is that yes for meditation? Or what is that yes for? Great show. Enjoy watching. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Joe. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed it today as well. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Beverly. I enjoyed it too. Anyway, so all right, guys, I will talk to you later. I'm going to get outside and enjoy this amazing weather, and you can't handle the truth. I'm going to probably go get some ice cream just because I can, and take my Jeep and drive out in the sun. See you guys. Have a good one. Adios. Thank you for joining us at the Live Loving live stream. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and visit us at johnofnew.com.